Let's all look at this development in Nigerian political landscape in the opposition political parties, talking about the new coalition that involve Obi, Atiku, and co. And what looked like the opposition already concluded plan to compel an Obi to perhaps accept Atiku as the presidential candidate or to even stand as running mate to Atiku. The opposition political party under that coalition have now concluded plan on how to go about their primary, saying that they are going to sign an agreement, and the agreement says that at the end of the primary, all the aspirants will be committed to supporting whoever emerge from the process. This look as if Obi have been stationed to deputize Atiku. From what I'm seeing, that is why I would like viewers to tell us what they think about this process in our comment section. Because from what I'm seeing, this is no other strategy other than trying to compel an Obi to support Atiku or even become the running mate to Atiku in that coming 2027 presidential election. But before I go further, let me bring you the source of this news. I am reading from Daily Post. It said 2027, Atiku, Obi, Amechi, others to sign agreement ahead of ADC primary election. You go further to say that presidential aspirants under the African Democratic Congress, ADC, have reportedly agreed to enter a concrete agreement to support whoever emerges as a party's flag bearer. One of the presidential hopefuls in the coalition movement, Rotimi Amechi, disclosed this to leadership on Friday. You go further to say that Daily Post reports that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Amechi, and former presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, have all declared their intention to run for the presidency under ADC. Let me at this point say that from what I can understand, all this strategy is targeted at Obi. I can say that with confidence because we understand that entrance of Obi into that coalition gave energy to that coalition because the youth generally are rooting for Obi. Just like we saw in 2023 presidential election, the dynamics of Nigerian politics have not changed because once Obi is seen in that coalition, the belief of the youth, or rather of those who want Nigeria to work, is that an opportunity have come once again for Nigerians to decide who to vote for and for them to grab that opportunity of voting for somebody who they believe have what it takes to take us out of the present quagmire. But seeing that this is happening, of course, it's a very terrible situation. But let's not even look at the characters in this ADC as it has to do with the political gladiators and their roles they have played in Nigerian political space in the past. Looking at someone like Rotimi Amechi, of course, we understand that he is a former governor of Rivers State. And little do we know, or most people do not even know that Amechi, as a governor of Rivers State in the past, in 2011, even sponsored the Congress, or rather the convention of CPC. That is the Buhari party before they came into merger to form APC. So one begin to wonder, why would a PDP governor back then in 2011 be part of such, or rather backrow such a political gathering? And apart from that, we want to take note that in the period to 2015 election, that saw Jonathan losing to President Muhammadu Buhari, and Amechi as the governor of Rivers State, of course, we call it doubles as the chairman of Nigerian Governor Forum, played a pivotal role in making sure that the coalition against PDP then and Jonathan worked. I understand that Amechi at some point was relieved of his position as the chairman of the Nigerian Governor Forum. So it goes to show that Amechi has played a significant role in coalition of opposition political parties to oust a sitting president. That we saw him did against Jonathan. And currently, he's at it again, synergizing with the likes of Atiku, Erufai, Babachilawa, and host of other northern leaders. Now, talking about Atiku himself, Atiku, of course, is in that same 2011, of course, he equally joined forces with other political gladiators to work against Jonathan and eventually lost to Buhari in the primary. So almost everybody in that coalition played one role or the other in destroying Jonathan, in making sure that Jonathan didn't return for a second term. If you equally look at someone like Erufai, of course, who is a major vocal, who is someone who is very vocal in terms of criticizing the current government of Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and of course, this is someone who equally played a pivotal role in alliance that ensured that a Jonathan did not get second term. You can go on and on, the whole lot of them, but the point here is this current arrangement of the opposition political parties coming under ADC. It is very clear that the intention of those who bring everybody together is to ensure that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar flies the flag. And it's not clear whether Anobi himself will be willing and ready to be on the same ticket with Atiku. I took note of what came from the presidential spokesman the other day, Bayo Onanuga. I don't know how he got to that conclusion, that if Anobi run on the same ticket with Atiku, that Obi will not get the blind vote he got in 2023. I don't know what they mean by blind vote, but I understand that Nigerians, particularly the youth, voted for Obi consciously. There was nothing like blindness. Nobody was deceived. Nobody was coerced. Nobody was intimidated. Nobody was lobbied. Nobody was influenced with money and all that. Even with the voter suppression we witnessed in some part of the country against Labour Party and Obi, then we saw that Obi, according to the result that was declared by INEC, equally at the end of the day was able to secure about 6.something million votes. So I don't know where Bayo Onanuga got the insinuation that there was a blind vote that went for Obi. Ordinarily, we would have even been saying that happened in other political parties, because Obi was the only candidate in that 2023 election that didn't dish out money. All he was saying is he don't give a shishi. And of course, we understand where he's coming from. It doesn't imply that he doesn't have money, but there is no point wasting money when you know that what you are looking for is you want to even govern the country and help the country out of the present predicament. Then again, going forward into this 2027 presidential election, the way it is, it's becoming very clear that the intention of or rather the strategy of the government at the center, talking about federal government, to make sure that opposition did not work, is gradually becoming a mirage for the federal government. But we have seen even Anobi the other time who raised the alarm and even accused the government that they are the architect of the problem of PDP and Labour Party. Even if the government and the president have denied it severally, but the point is, from what we can see, if you have a discerning insight, you will understand that actually the government have a hand in it. But let me quickly say at this point that if you must have a good democracy, the beauty of democracy is a strong opposition. Because one thing is certain, if there is no strong opposition, it leads to absolute power. Absolute power, they say corrupt. Power, they say corrupt. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if there is no alternative government by the side that hope to take over from the government in place in the next round of election, of course, it will make the government of the day to run with impunity. And I think that should be discouraged. And on that angle, the government must allow opposition to flourish. And when it comes to election, let the government bring out their program and manifesto. If the government that is seeking to take over from them have a better manifesto and program, of course, people will go for them. But the major challenge we have in this part of the world is the electoral process, is the electoral acts that has not been fine-tuned to the point where we can have free, fair, and credible election. Because the way it stands, I'm of the view that going into that election, if we go into that election with the current electoral acts that gives INEC the liberty, the discretionary power to determine the mode of transmission of election results, I must say that it's unfortunate we may not grant free, fair, and credible election, or rather the results. Because we understand that before 2023 presidential election, Nigerians, stakeholders, put pressure on National Assembly to amend the Electoral Act, particularly Section 82 that deals with the mode of transfer of election results. And before the election, they amended it, and INEC was given discretionary power to determine the mode of transmission of election results. When the time for election we approached, INEC made us to understand that they were going to transmit election results electronically. But at the nick of time, they reneged and give excuse of network glitch. Though Nigerians, including myself, we are not satisfied that there was a genuine network glitch. That is where we now say, let us amend the Electoral Act further to remove that discretionary power from INEC. Let us have some specifics that compels INEC that you must transmit election results electronically. S, let the results in any area that is not transmitted by electronic means be rendered null and void. Anything short of that is not going to give us free, fair, and credible election. Because we understand that in this part of the world, politicians will always latch on any lacuna in the Electoral Act to undermine the process. And if you look at the Nigerian electoral process, the government agencies that have responsibility to play in the election management, they are all answerable to the executive arm of government. Talking about the police, the DSS, even the army, of course, even the umpire itself that conducts the election, they are all answerable to the executive in one way or the other. If not for any other thing, in their funding, they are answerable to the executive. And if you look at the appointment of the INEC chairman, which most of us are advocating that it should be reviewed to ensure that we have a truly independent electoral system. I think we should look in that area to see how we can amend the Electoral Act to ensure that the appointment of the INEC chairman and national INEC commissioners is taken away from the whims and caprices of whoever occupies Aso Rock. Because by so doing, their independence will be guaranteed. Another thing has to do with their funding. I'm on the view that their funding should be first-line charge. Constitutional, if the constitution spells out that from SY source, their money is drawn. Not that they'll be going cap in hand to the executive asking for money anytime there is need for money. Of course, if we continue in that manner, just as they say that he who pays the piper, they takes the tone. I think that's what we'll continue seeing. Another thing again is that the personnels who manage, or rather, of course, the way and manner offenders of the law during the election is not prosecuted is another big issue. Because one thing is certain, the whole essence of prosecuting people who offend the law is to act as deterrent to others. But even the event in an election, people who are arrested, who are accused of one crime or the other, electoral malpractice or the other, are not prosecuted, are not found wanting. Of course, it have a way of encouraging other people to do worse or more next time. So the best way to ensure that people do not gain appetite for electoral fraud is to ensure that those who do it, who are arrested, are prosecuted. By such, it will act as deterrent to others. I think we can take clue from other part of the world where the election is a bit fair, free, fair, and credible. And at the end of the day, the problem we have in this part of the world is, if you go to the court, they will tell you that what the constitution say is that the onus, the responsibility of proof lies on the petitioner. And in most cases, you find out that the petitioner who have lost election may not have access to some vital documents that he needs to prosecute his case. That's why I'm even advocating that in the amendment, let the INEC that conducts the election, let the burden of proof be shifted to the INEC. Let INEC be the one that will prove that the election was free, fair, and credible, instead of the petitioner having that burden of proof. I think INEC should take up that burden going forward. It's my opinion. And in the case of electoral review of the Electoral Act, I want to say that that is my own personal opinion, because it has been a very big challenge, Herculean task for petitioners across board since the inception of this national democracy in 1999 to prove their cases in court, or rather in the electoral tribunal, whether the election results were free, fair, and credible in terms of rigging, ballot stuffing, and all of that. But holistically speaking, let me say that there's every need to rejig our Electoral Act to give us free, fair, and credible election come 2027. Thank you very much.